Hello, and welcome to what are we at? Episode 21. 21 of your favorite Muay Thai podcast. Thiago's mic might be muted. Did you touch the mute?
I am unmuted.
There it is.
Welcome to the show, guys. Thank you for that, Brandon. We are on episode 21, and we are delighted to have a VIP guest, big name guest, and that's Pete Peterson. He is the head official for TBA SA and WBC Muay Thai USA. He's also head coach. You want to tell us about your gym as well?
Hi, guys.
How are you?
I'm all right.
Sawadee
It's Round Kick Gym. I'm in Iowa, in the middle of nowhere. And I've got two gyms, one full-time and one day a week. So that's about it.
You bring a lot of people to the middle of nowhere.
It's amazing. It's kind of surreal.
Sounds like
that
a cult
is
leader
surreal
to me.
Nobody wants to fly into Iowa. A what, Ryan? A cult?
He's a cult leader. Yeah.
Somehow they come to the compound.
They come.
Yes.
David Koresh.
That's awesome. Tell us a little bit about, give us a synopsis of your story, how you started with Muay Thai and how it evolved into kind of the powerhouse that you guys have today. You guys moved the needle a lot for Muay Thai, and want to hear about it. I was there at the first one, your first tournament. I think I threw a chair, if I'm not mistaken.
You think what?
I think I threw a chair, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. I think there was a guy that did a little bit more than that.
I'm glad it wasn't me, but I think I just threw a chair.
I know you were upset.
Yeah, I was a little upset, but we've evolved since then.
We have evolved, yes. Everything's evolved since then.
Tell us about your story.
You know what? I was kickboxing before I was doing Muay Thai. So I got into martial arts in the Marine Corps and in the late 80s. And when I got out in 90, moved back to Illinois, where I'm from, I tried to find more martial arts, and I got into Wing Chun and JKD and Kali, the concept arts. And with that, I saw Muay Thai. And I started competing in kickboxing. I had no desire to do Muay Thai at that point, not compete anyway. And I jumped in head first, promoted my first show in 1993 at the Redbird Arena at Illinois State University. Big old 11,000 seating arena. I had like 1,000 in there. So it looked empty as hell. But it was cool still. And lost my ass on it, but it was cool. And it was during that fight I had a Muay Thai bout. Ed Markey from the Academy and Kwame Stevens. And they were heavyweights. And I was not familiar with Muay Thai that much yet. And it was hard to find Muay Thai guys that would fight each other in the Midwest because they were all under Azran Chai, and he didn't like them fighting each other back then. Everything's, of course, as you see, has changed since then. And so this fight went out, and Illinois had no commission, so I had full rules. And no pads, just gloves, full rules. And those two banged shins. It sounded like two rams butting heads, right?
Holy cow.
Through the arena. And right then I said, F that. I'm not ever doing Muay Thai. I'll stick to padded shins and foot pads on my feet and kickbox. And but it wasn't long after that, though, that I just kept doing Muay Thai, and I just fell in love with it. And 99 is when I really started getting more involved and hitting it more heavy. And I still was promoting shows all through the 90s in Illinois, kickboxing, boxing, Muay Thai, and making the mixed card. And I was the only guy that I'm aware of doing some Muay Thai besides the late Tom Latuli. He was up there doing Weekend War in Chicago. And those were crazy, crazy events too. But then when I moved to Iowa, opened Round Kick Gym in 2003, and started training fighters and taking them to IKF tournaments and seeing how we had to give up rules for, you want to do Muay Thai, but if there's no match for you, no match for the guy, he's in full contact rules. We meet in the middle with low kick. And it just, every time we had a hard time getting actual Muay Thai fights. So I started promoting again, Pam and I, and doing regular shows, started competing again myself. And then the way the tournament evolved or happened was I'm at a seminar with Ajahn Chai in Minnesota. And we're at dinner the one night. And I was complaining kind of about not having a tournament that's just Muay Thai. It's always Muay Thai, FCR, they call it, which is above the waist rules, and low kick. And
like long pants.
What's that?
The long pants fighting.
Yeah. And so his words were, and we promoted fights. He said, "So you set up fight?" And I said, "Yes, sir. We set up fights." He said, "Suppose you do it." Okay, that wasn't the answer I was looking for. But, we went back home. We planned some things out. Took about a year. That was 2006. Took about a year to figure it out. And then that first event happened that you were part of in 2007. That was a one-day event.
Did you lose me?
We lost.
Pete's with us. We're good. It might be.
That's just my internet. I got you, but I don't have Pete right now.
I hear you, Brandon. I mean,
there you go. Interesting. Okay, we're back. Sorry about that.
And that evolved into 2007 whenever you were out there. And it went from there. And, as you guys have seen, and you have your own tournament as well. As you guys have seen, every year it gets bigger and better. And the level gets way better every year.
It's a testament to the sport and how it's evolving here in the States.
Yeah.
We're seeing that as well at our tournament. And I think everywhere I've been, the quality of athlete is improving. Mm-hmm. Right. And that's naturally going to happen, as the sport grows. I started with Taekwondo. I trained with the Olympic team, trained, a lot of Taekwondo, Olympic style Taekwondo with, high level. And when it became Olympic, all of a sudden, everybody wanted to be a part of the sport, right? Because everybody wants to be an Olympian. And so I saw a sport evolve, from a very small sport. I was in it and nobody was there. There's not a lot of people doing Taekwondo. It was mostly, Kyokushin, karate, but Taekwondo, when it became Olympic, all of a sudden it was like the biggest martial art in the world at the time. And it got like, all of a sudden the quality of athlete became really hard to win. When I was winning consistently, all of a sudden I'm like, man, I'm getting silvers and bronze, and the brackets are 30 deep, 40 deep. You're taking 3 to 4 days to compete in the nationals. And yeah, it's kind of cool because then, like you said, the quality increases. Mm-hmm. So you go on with your story. I just wanted to add my little tiplet.
that was really, it. I mean, the first couple of years we lost our ass. I mean, we didn't really understand all the dynamics of it, and I think any sane person would have said, screw this, we're done. Somebody else can do it. But just didn't want to quit. I wanted to pursue this. And and keep pushing to see how far we can get. And, each year we have our little things we see behind the scenes, our little hiccups behind the scenes that for the most part, nobody outside sees it. So we hope anyway. So we try to improve those each year. And it's just pretty surreal where it's gotten to. Since COVID, the last 4 years have been increasingly getting more numbers. And we're at a point right now where we have a conundrum. We don't know what to do with the growth. We don't want to just, on one hand, you can say we're just going to cap it, right? And that's what we're going to be. We don't want to take it to a bigger venue in our metro here because there's no hotel connected. There's not by the airport. There's just things that are going to be different.
And we understand those
problems. We know that struggle real well.
Yeah, it's tough, isn't it?
It's a tough problem.
We take our tournament champions, we travel with that once in a while, and it's always a struggle traveling because you know there's always different dynamics and obstacles you have to overcome and things you didn't foresee happening. And with our hotel here, we have that staff that knows us every year, and it's a good relationship. Everybody can come in, fly in if they fly in, and just walk if they want to right across the street to the hotel. But there's a shuttle there, and enough hotels around the area now that everybody can walk to the event if they need to as well. And we just like it. So we're looking at, a last resort, adding another day, which we don't want to do. Maybe add a smaller fifth ring on one end for the youth fights. Maybe we get the youth fights out of the way in 2 days and have a championships on Friday, a championships on Sunday. I don't know. One of the not complaints, but complaints, I guess, each year is, the smaller brackets. You've got to weigh in on Wednesday and stay there till Sunday to compete, Saturday or Sunday, depending on 3 or 2 man. And that's always tough. It's expensive. So if we can figure out a way to expand with the growth and yet allow some to leave early, we're going to explore that and see what we can come up with. So we'll see. But that's really the story in a nutshell. It's just, and you guys know the bumps and bruises and hiccups of promoting shows and you understand.
The labor of love for sure.
Yeah, and you feel the growth too. You feel the successes also, right? So balance those out. I mean, I think the good far outweighs the bad, so we keep going.
Right. Yeah. I mean, thank you for sharing that. I kind of wanted to explore too how you're able to run your gym, a massive, the largest national tournament in the country, in North America, and still do the reffing, judging, and all this other stuff. How do you kind of successfully do all of that?
So this year I didn't referee at all at the tournament. I have a bum knee, and I just didn't get in.
Okay.
I just managed.
You're putting on like clinics and things like that, and
like all of that, like time schedule and stuff.
You're traveling, teaching athletes, doing all the stuff. It's how is that? How do you do that?
I have a wife that does it all for me, and I just go do it.
Good.
When you have a woman behind you,
you got extra brownie points today.
But it's true. It's true. I'm not trying to suck up. It's true that, if I didn't have her booking my flights, booking my hotel, booking my rental cars, doing all the stuff online, getting it ready, preparing it, updating the links, making them active, all of that stuff behind the scenes that nobody really sees, I couldn't do it. I'm not that smart. I can't. That's not me. I need that person behind me, the other half, to do the behind the scenes stuff that's actually more important than what I do, in my opinion. So that's how it gets done. And the traveling itself, last year I had like 32 weekends I was gone doing something with the teaching or events or whatever, and twice international. And it did wear on me. It slowed down this last month or so with the tournament. I didn't book anything. And I only have one thing this month coming up.
You're going to be in Vegas, right?
What's that?
Is you going to Vegas?
Actually, we postponed that till September.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, last minute. Actually, the day before I was gonna fly out, we decided to postpone it was mostly a private group two gyms coming together in Vegas and Santa Barbara to get certified to do their events they want to do, called technical Thai boxing, like Robert Aldama does in San Diego. And so he made them once we get certified first and go through the course before they do this. So good on him to do that and require that. But one of the gyms couldn't make it last minute, so we decided to postpone.
Did I hear technical Thai boxing? Did I hear?
That's what he calls the event.
Is this the semi-contact
bout?
Oh no! You joined the other side, Pete.
I didn't, because they do it.
That's Robert Aldama does that one, right?
Yeah. I know. We love Robert. We're big fans of him, and but we still we break balls every once in a while. So,
you have to. Yeah.
So you have the gym, you have the tournament, you ref, and it's you had this last a tournament this past week, or this past last month,
like a week ago, yeah.
And how did that go? How did your tournament go? How did you feel
this past June?
Yeah.
It went well. It ran smooth again,
as usual.
Yeah, I mean, we still have our own hiccups inside, behind the scenes. So we still have those every year. Something new pops up, we got to fix.
Sure. What was that this year?
Just bracketing stuff, or flights getting delayed coming in for weather, or no shows, or people missing weight and transfers. All those things. We don't do a software for our bracketing to push a button and they're bracketed. We still do Google spreadsheets, and that works for Pam and her system and her staff. So it still takes us a little bit longer to get it done, and we've got to adjust things.
Why is it that you don't go to a software that would just randomly do it? Considering the amount of people you have in this tournament.
We have explored it, and we're not against it yet. We are looking at Smooth Comp, and we have talked to the guy in Sweden with Smooth Comp. Well, Pam has a few times. And it seems like it would work for us. I think part of it is just a little gun shy because the system has worked. Overall, it's just delayed at night getting the brackets out and people wanting to know when they fly.
It takes a while, right? Like I remember coming to the tournament, I'm like there at 2 a.m. Sometimes I'll jump in and Pam's sitting there on her clicking away, and I'm like, holy cow, man, this is like insane. Like,
so she knows
what else.
It's a lot.
Yeah, this year was unusual. So they're
the other
looking at
thing is too with the softwares is that like there's got to be a comfort level, because now you're giving up the keys.
That's what it is. We want to have comfort
to a
still.
Third party, and you don't want to be that person be dependent on that platform to take control of your entire operation. So it's tough. It's a tough decision.
And I think Smooth Comp actually, allows more freedom with that, but we also want to
so?
as well. What's that?
How so? How do they allow more freedom?
I guess I'm not familiar completely with how the R Sports platform was, or even still is. I just was barely there with IBMA for a while. You guys were into it more than I was with your tournaments for the first few years there. But we've used Smooth Comp for our scrimmages, and kind of like the MDLs, we have a scrimmage platform also, and it runs pretty smooth. I mean, you have a lot of freedom to do what you want to do with it. There are a lot of options in it, and we're not at the beck and call, so to speak. I think, like, am I not mistaken, one year you guys had a problem with some issues, and you kind of were at the mercy of the guys with our sports trying to get some stuff done
during development. Yeah, we've done that a lot, as where we're like beta testing because nobody else is doing it, and if you have a new software developer, you need to beta test, right? So we had to kind of fall on the sword, so to speak, because they weren't going to test that at IFMA, right? That wasn't going to happen. So, they just weren't going to do it. IFMA was not going to roll it out.
And the Philippines, I think, were the two test runners of our sports.
Yeah, so they had to develop it, let us, get mud on our face, so to speak, and
it was rough.
But you see where they're at now. So, I mean.
Right. Even if we do go to software, we're still on the paper trail there as well. We want to have that backup. Remember one year, Brian Crenshaw went digital with his tournament, and something crashed, paper trail. This is what I'm told. And he had a hard time catching things back up with no paper trail there, like oh man, if we have an internet issue at all, we're screwed. So that's part of we're just a little reserved on taking that step and doing it, but we know we need to with the growth.
Yeah. As the growth, you can't scale it doing it that way for that long. Would you ever consider doing an open bracketing where they would be like athletes would be able to, coaches would be able to, kind of like the world championships, where you're able to openly see what's going on with bracketing?
You mean like it's online where they can see it happening as it goes?
Like they could be present as you do it.
Oh, like when you like at IFMA, you have the big meeting where they have the draw, right?
The draw.
The bracketing committee. Yes.
I don't know. I don't know how that would work with that many fighters. I really don't know. I haven't thought about that.
Okay.
They don't all show up. I can honestly say, like, when you do it open, some people really want to be a part of that. Maybe you could, what's popular right now is the voter or election fraud topic, and you want to watch it because you're just not sure that it's being fairly done. And, whether that's true or not, across, any municipality or whatever, people just feel that and want to be in the room, feeling that it's transparent and all that good stuff, I think.
Transparency, a big thing, although you guys have a great reputation, that, the matches are done well. There is opportunity, right? There is opportunity for something to happen that, may not be fair in someone's eyes. And so, actually, Bob forced us to have our bracketing done in the open. Did that take you longer by any means, or it doesn't really do anything because it's a random draw. So when we first did it, we didn't have a random draw. As a matter of fact, I was on the floor. I don't know if you guys recall, but I was on the floor putting papers all over the ring, trying to create the order. Then it was my first tournament. I was like, oh my God, like, now I have to do this. That's going to take, and it took about 2 hours. And we finally got it all numbered up, written down. And
you mean there wasn't a YouTube video tutorial on how to do that? You mean?
There should be.
And so like I started to learn how to do seating properly. Yeah. And actually that was how our sports did the seating. It was from me sitting down with them and going, this is the protocol I use to seed fights. And eventually I was like, you know what? I don't want to seed fights. I would prefer that it be random because, and then there's absolutely, I don't have a say myself as the promoter. So we did it in the open a couple times, but it was like, we're literally just pressing a button, guys. So you can sit here and kind of review after we press the button. And so it's still pretty empty to this day because it's a random draw. So I don't have I don't touch it in any way. But I just thought that was an interesting, you guys are open to, if you're going to continue to seed, to do it out in the open where everybody can see it.
It's interesting. We would probably need to figure out how to structure that. If we have
it's pretty cool, right? Like they just put it up on a screen, right? I've been to a bunch of them.
Software, that could be done,
And then only coaches were allowed to sit there. And so that way there's no parents and no, if you're a registered coach, you can sit, you can, watch the draw. If you have an objection, you can state your objection and, okay, well, let's move this or let's do that. But once it's done, it's done. There is no moving. There's, you know what I mean? That was kind of like the idea.
Yeah. Doing that would each year there's always something like once the brackets go up,
there's always one that's like, I can't, that's not right.
Yeah. Could be a girl who had a more of a boy's name or something. We didn't catch it, and they're in
those problems could actually get caught at the draw.
Right. The draw,
if you were there. right? Like, hey, were you at the draw? You know, like you could have caught this problem. You had an opportunity, and now you're, you know, you know, so
it's better than getting it the next morning, you know, right? Like,
right.
The next morning, and they're like,
then we're scrambling.
You know, I don't know what to do, and it's coming up in the next.
It's happened to us too, where we had, you know, same thing where somebody was in the wrong bracket, and it was actually the athlete's fault. They put themselves in the wrong bracket, and we were like, okay, and the system crashed because we were trying to move them into the right bracket.
I remember that year. I wasn't there, but I remember some talk about
brutal.
That was brutal. Being going nuts trying to.
They had to get renumbered. The bouts did.
The whole thing, the whole order changed, and it was like it was probably the most memorable start of a tournament because it was 1 hour later waiting to fight because of that program. We were ready to go early. We were ready. Athletes were ready. Everything was ready. Someone came up and we were like, we can't continue without moving this person.
That's when we decided
literally
to get away
crashed
from
the
our
system. It was crazy.
Yeah, we were starting to move away at that point.
So we moved away from our sports naturally because that was, you know, we were waiting on those people, like you said. It was kind of like god awful. Yeah. So let me know, like, tell me about, you know, your evolution into the refereeing and judging aspect of the sport because you've pretty prominent in that world.
You know, I was doing judging and reffing even in the 90s when we started doing our own stuff, you know, and there's no commission in Illinois. There's no real sanctioning bodies. We just put on shows and I got people to do it. And when we started TBSA, it was the first, you know, 9 years probably, we went off what we thought was right. And after a while, I turned it over to USA Muay Thai, USMF, and they would do the courses. We always had like a 3-hour course before the tournament started after the weigh-ins were done. And that was for the officials. And a lot of the officials were coaches, and they would just judge and ref in between their fighters fighting. You know, we had no pool of judges and refs to pull from. And there was no course out there certifying them, training, developing them. And so that's how it was.
The state of Illinois at the time had no state oversight?
Not in the 90s when I was there. No, I'm already into our tournament now in the 2000s.
Right. No, I'm just curious. No. I'm surprised that there wasn't any oversight back then.
We did what we wanted to do. There was no regulation at all.
So, but boxing was, you know, obviously Chicago was a huge boxing hub.
Yes.
That's interesting.
Just not Muay Thai and kickboxing. There was nobody requiring anything, regulations, maybe pro, but I had pro bouts that no state commission was involved. So, you know, if there was one, I didn't know it and they didn't know I did it. Maybe that's the case, but
hey, whatever history, it's done.
Statute of limitations.
Statute of limitations is passed.
Yeah. And there's nobody out there, nobody above saying, hey, Pete, you're doing that wrong. You got to straighten that shit up. You got to go by the rules, you know? We did what we thought was right. But
so in the state of Iowa, is there a state oversight? Is there a regulation? So I know there's a handful of states in the country that, you know, there's 5. Yeah. That literally have no commission, no state oversight. It's basically the wild, wild west.
Well, I would go ahead.
Go ahead. Yeah.
I would put Iowa in those 5 in that for Muay Thai, they're not regulating amateur Muay Thai. They're regulating boxing, amateur and pro. Of course, you say boxing is part of that. And they are regulating MMA, amateur and pro. Kickboxing, they are not amateur, and Muay Thai not amateur. In our state, I had gotten it approved a few years back to, I think it was in 19, matter of fact, to allow pros in the tournament in the A class, so open class, to get ready for international competition. So they approved that. They also let us do full rules. When we TBSA sanction Iowa and when we're doing a one night like fight night and doing a pro-am card, they would be there to monitor the weigh-in of the pros, and they would have someone sitting ringside. but they wouldn't at the fight. They wouldn't do anything. We would do the whole show.
Our kind of just a babysitter.
Yeah, and getting their 5% commission fee from our ticket sales. Of course,
they're there for their money. I get it.
Yeah. So, but we liked that they, let us run how we wanted to run. We had a sanctioning body. We had these rules, we had regulations, and they were up to par with what they require for things that regulate as far as safety issues go and all of that. So, yes, they're not like Delaware or Indiana, not quite as free as that and unregulated as that, but they're pretty open for Muay Thai for us.
So this brings me to a question that's also highly debated, and I've openly asked it quite a bit, and I'm very glad that I have you here to ask this. And it's the conflict of interest.
Yep,
you obviously, and I know you have an answer, and I want to hear it, because you guys have to have an answer, right? Like there has to be some kind of answer to how are you financially vested in an organization and still also regulating it? And how do you kind of, I would say, how do you account for the conflict of interest?
So the TBASA is nonprofit, and it actually makes very small amounts of money. It makes money from sanctioning shows that the promoter pays us for, the fees to sanction, the officials, the rep, if any title fights are on there. When we have a tournament like these, it's the same case. Our promotions company, Round Kick Promotions, is the for-profit company, and actually is the one promoting the tournament. All finances run through Round Kick Promotions.
Right.
So we keep that straight as far as legally and financial. But to the other point to your question, I don't think it's any different than like with you guys. You have USMTA, a separate sanctioning body, and then USMTO, the promotion, right, or the tournament name and your promotion, Cyan Promotions. I think is that what it is. So you are totally separate from that, and we are not. IKF is not. WKA is not.
Right. Almost everybody, actually, all the big major tournaments. And I've always was like, how is this allowed to happen? Because you can very openly, from what you just said, there's almost no oversight from the state. So there is obvious opportunity for fraud or for unfair practices, for unsafe practices. And I always wanted to, let's if something really goes terribly wrong at the TBAs, something I bring my athletes, I always bring my athletes out there. And so I bring an athlete and there's just neglect, there's something awful that happens that wasn't my fault. Maybe it was a judge or referee with a TBA. And who do I go to that's above you if I wanted to report something that was poorly done? It was in essence, this is totally wrong. And who do you guys answer to that would have powers to reprimand in any way or fine or I don't know what I would say, but I mean that's usually the question I have, not just for you, but for all of them. IKF, for WKA, for USA Muay Thai, who do you guys answer to?
So the main answer is nobody, but we could ask that same question of USMTA. Who does Bob answer to?
The state.
The
law.
Okay.
Yeah. The state.
There's the answer. So in this state, no.
Yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
But so in this state, it's us, unless there's pros on there. But if we're in a state like Ohio, when we did the Arnolds last March, it would be the state.
Right.
If we're in Minnesota, it's the state where we sanction at. Oklahoma, other states where we are approved to sanction, it's the state. So that if we had a problem, you would call the state and they would investigate. If there was a problem in a state, and I'm assuming here when I say this, if there's a problem, like you say, like a legal issue, a safety issue, neglect issue, that I would like people come to me, you come to me to complain, and I would say, oh, you're wrong, Tiago, this doesn't happen. Well, that's why I think where if it's a legal issue or something like that, you want to get an attorney involved and actually file some charges or complaint.
We'd have to sue, right?
Yeah.
But there's no protections already in place,
right,
for the athlete by the law. Is that correct? That's interesting.
Probably a good assumption, in states that don't regulate or don't have oversight.
Like Delaware, Washington, some of the ones that we know.
Delaware,
like
Washington, Indiana.
Essentially, maybe that's what we're getting to, is that maybe then it's the state that you're in, buyer beware. If you do not have a state regulation body, you are in that position of that it would go private. And then, of course, if there's a waiver, or something as well, there might be limited action you could take unless you could prove negligence, probably.
Right.
Sure.
I think also if something disastrous happened like that, whatever it might be, it's extreme. Social media is going to kill the event anyway. Going to kill the promotion. Going to kill.
Of course, and that's that's the other side of that coin, right? It's open free market, right? This is America, and so if you do a shit job, people are gonna find out, and you obviously would have never grown to the size that you've grown to, right? And
that's
so
true up until a point where you have a choke point. So a lot of people don't know about having choke points on certain industries, but a lot of people at the federal level are really smart about it, and they create it in such a way that there is no recourse, even if they're, corrupted. That's kind of, look at our Senate, look at our Congress. I mean, it's a choke point where we all know it's corrupt, but we still have to function within that system.
Look at lion fights recently, right?
Lion fight, actually, that's a great example, because when they were running, basically fleeing from all these where did lion fight go? Indiana. Indiana. The only place that isn't regulated. And I went there with Jake Peacock, cornered him for a fight. Jacks are bouncing left and right. Who do you go to? Nobody. No. And you sue him, he's gone. He's not even in that state. So, again, this is, and there's the opportunity for negligence, for, just poor behavior as a promoter.
Well, and I would say that's how that all happened, right? Because for them, just back on the lion fight issue, is that if there is no, most of us don't want oversight. Let's just be honest. You don't want it, right? That we're in America. If we're doing the right thing, we don't want anybody unneeded costs, because if we're doing the right thing, we're doing the right thing.
Thousands and thousands for sanctioning.
Yeah, but medical and all that good stuff. But anyway, you got a lion fight, or and not just them, but other people. Obviously, we got all the regulations that we have today because there were thousands of bad actors, right, at some point. So that's tough, that we even have to advocate for that. It's good to have someone oversight, some oversight over even the local sanctioning authority.
Right. There's a lot of things that I feel like, Bob will, now you got to do this, you got to do that. And we grumble because it's like, shit, that's now going to cost us an extra couple grand. And
which goes to who does it go to, right? When things are more expensive, it goes to the community.
But right. And so the athlete now has to pay more. And then, but at the same time, they're also paying for peace of mind, right? Like, they know that if shit goes down, they have the literal power of the law to back them. And there would be it would be a very quick suit, right? So, the government, the state makes us get lots of insurance, makes us get, an ambulance on site, makes us get doctors for each ring. Of course, MDs can't be anything outside of MD, can't be blah, 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 blah.
No veterinarians.
No bets. No. So, it's just an interesting, perspective. I'll be honest. I thought that you would have had a little bit more of maybe a committee or something like that in place that you would appoint powers to in your bylaws.
Yeah.
I would feel like that might be like, that's outside of you and Pam, right? That you guys don't have control.
I was thinking about that too. Since there's a separation, you have the nonprofit, but then Roundkick is the promoter for, the big show. Who sits, on the board for the nonprofit? And how does somebody who's interested in trying to get on that board, how do they go about doing that?
So that's probably a Pam question.
I wish I had her here.
I'm not going to deflect, but
we
I
hate
don't,
these things.
I don't even know the answer, because when we first started TBSA, we had every intention. We had a board, and the 501c3, is that the way I say it right? C3. Something never got completed. So we are still nonprofit, but to complete the 501c3, we would then have to change our name at the time. Something took too long and we weren't going to change our name. So we're still nonprofit in TBSA, but it's not the completed 501c3. So the board was pretty much fizzled.
There was no board.
But it is still something that could be established again, just for the reasons you are addressing or pointing out, checks and balances.
Yeah, I mean, I would assume
accountability.
Well, the biggest one, I want to add this because I'm pretty knowledgeable on this topic, being involved with the Ted Stevens Act and getting the original, submission for the USA Muay Thai. There was a lot of learning curve in that. And one thing that I found over and over in that document was athlete representation.
That's what I was about to say.
Yeah, they were very much a part of athlete representation, needed to be involved so that there was that balance. So it wasn't just officials, people that are in the cool club, and then it had even new, people, but there was some criteria to that. So,
yeah.
So there's a rule in your tournament that I am not a fan of. And
which is that?
It's, and I don't know if you changed it. But the last time I was there, you said that strikes to the back of the head were okay to do. And I always had like a major problem with that, and I don't really think any state official would allow that. In boxing, there's been so many deaths from punches to the back of the head, strikes to the back of the head, to the medulla, right up below the base of the spine. And people lose their movement. They lose their, it ruins their lives essentially from that strike. Do you still have that rule?
So let me tell you how it came about and how I actually updated it and where I'm at with it.
Awesome. I'd love to hear.
Back of the head's always been illegal. And in 2018, when I'm refereeing at IFMA, I'm in the ring, and it's these two big 17-year-olds, Russian and somebody else, and the other guy whipped an elbow in the clinch and got spun around, and the Russian kid just boom, boom, back of the head, 2 punches. I'm stop and break, and I caution him for the back of the head, and he's looking at me like, "What? That's okay." And he did it again within like 20 or 30 seconds. Same thing with the elbow, get back of the head twice. I'm in there right away. He didn't get more than 2 shots in, and I cautioned him again. He still looked puzzled,
confused,
but he didn't do it again because he knew one more time of the same thing, he's getting a point deduction. He ended up winning the fight anyway. I walked back down around in my rotation, and the jury guy says, "Pete, what are you doing?" And I said, "Walking back to my seat." He said, "Only the groin's illegal. Back head's fine."
Holy shit.
No, didn't know. I mean, anywhere in the States, it's illegal. Didn't know. And so I started investigating this, looking at it. And in Muay Thai, You look at the BBOC, Boxing Board of Control, Sports Authority Thailand, Muay Thai, the only illegal target is the groin. However,
interesting.
When you look at the 4 major sanctioning bodies headquartered in Thailand, WMO, IFMA, WMC, WBC, right? Those are the main 4 that have written rules down.
Right.
Only WMC still goes by that rule. Even
the
WBC,
division of
IFMA, only IFMA does. IFMA.
Right.
WBC did, but in 21, 22, they revisited it.
Recently. Holy cow.
They revisited it and made it illegal again. And the premise or the reason was that 13-year-old that died in one of the stadiums there, they
case in point
to back of the head shots.
Sure.
I don't remember if it was dumps or sweeps that he hit his head. I don't know, and some shots back of the head.
I think there was shots to the back of the head, and then if I don't remember, like he got dumped and fell in the back of his head, and then there was more shots to the back of his head, and it ended up killing him.
They changed that. I don't know about WMC because they're under the IFMA umbrella, the pro side, but IFMA still has that legal. And so I'm not sure WMO either. So I ended up making that legal, but and this was in 22.
I think it was 22.
21, 22, 22. And with the understanding that referees are going to break it right away, and you may get 1 or 2 shots in,
but you're not going to get fouled for it.
We're not going to call it a foul, and it still scores if it's a correct illegal technique. But we're going to break it right away. Well, then what happened last year was I tried to make it through a change. So because I said it was legal, the referee, one of the fights, I walked up on it, and the fighter has him under the arm, framing him down, bent over, and dropping elbows, targeting the back of the head. And I said, whoa, stop. And I made it. You can't just you can't. So I had to rethink how I stated that. So this year I said, in that unsafe position, you're not going to target the back of the head. So this year we had a couple shots that I saw a guy try to go to the back of the head with the elbow, and they were like targeting it. So I'm going to make a statement next year for this next one that you cannot target it, and the only shot that really is going to hit. See, here's the conundrum with this whole back of the head thing, right? If you're in an unsafe position, you're hitting it repeatedly. That's one thing that should not be happening. But our rule states over these years that if it's accidental, they turn it. They turn away and you're
turned around. Yeah,
right. But think about a round kick to the head where the foot and crevice
wraps around the neck,
or a spinning hook kick hits the back of the head. Those kind of things are legal. They're not fouls. Yet they do the same kind of damage to the back of the head as a punch or an elbow.
I remember a spinning hook kick, in Taekwondo when it was big. Mm-hmm. There was an average of 2 deaths a year globally, which isn't a lot because considering how many practitioners. But the deaths that did happen in Taekwondo were due to spinning hook kick to the back of the head or back kick to the back of the head. And so they changed their headgear, and then they started to say that, frontal. And so like the back of the basically any attack to the spine is a career ending strike. Usually, if it's hard enough, it can literally end a career.
So you see strikes to the spine, like in Thailand, you see guys scoop a teep or throw a kick and round kick the back.
Yeah.
But it's not hitting the spine like a knee would, right?
Right.
So I don't allow like a straight knee to the spine. I don't want any
even in Thailand when their backs is turned, they usually knee to the glute. They don't knee to the spine, right? Because it's like, first of all, it's really hard to get to when you're bent like that. And secondly, the glute actually hurts. It hurts quite a bit. If anybody's ever been kneed in the glute, it sucks because like it's kind of hard to stand up straight after you get one there. Yeah. But
Now you're talking about the butt, the glute,
booty,
the
Yes.
gluteus maximus.
the knee to the boot.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
I want to clarify that for the audience.
the knee to the gluteus maximus, or ass. So if you want me to say it that way, I can.
Okay, that's more appropriate for today.
Ass knee is legal, and it's legal, I think, here too. It's legal in the States. It's a muscular part of the body. It's a muscle, you know, and it's not the growing. It is a legal blow. Usually, they usually try to sneak one in right before the ref breaks it, right? Because the opponent's back is turned. And I mean, I've done it. You know, like it's a free shot. You know, but
you're right.
To the spine, it's like
train against that though, Tiago. Is that doing glute kickbacks? Is that? I mean, what?
We're gonna do birthday kicks to the glute now. Birthday knees to the glute. It's painful, man. I'm telling you, if you've never felt it, that shit sucks.
I'm glad I have not.
It is.
But I got some, junk in the trunk.
So I'm glad to hear that you're making some modifications to that rule. I've always been
revisiting it, yeah, completely.
The needs or any kind of strikes at the back of the head. I feel it should be warned because otherwise they're gonna go for it again. Even if the opponent's making a mistake, could cost a life, it could cost a career. I don't know, but again, this is something that the state would never allow me to do. I would never be allowed to do it. Now, let's say you have a state or an athlete run. And now when I say athlete run committee, I mean athletes that are a member of TBA SA can go in and, take away some powers from the promoter, right? I feel like that would be the only solution to, it would basically slow down your ability to go, hey, back of the head's legal, or, something, obviously you explained yourself, but something that, most athletes go, whoa, what? Wait a second. that's not, something I agree with, and then they have not only a voice, but, an ability to kind of slow that process down and maybe make you rethink it. Go, you know what? A lot of athletes don't really like this, and they're stating a fair point, and giving some kind of powers, maybe like a vote or something within the committee and a board. And I know Brandon would have a little bit more say on structuring on how that would be, but an athlete representation,
right? That would be the other.
If it's enforceable, right? I would like to be part of that committee if I was a coach, and when you're going through the rules, like, hey guys, annual meeting, for rule changes, blah blah blah. This is on the proposal, and I'd be on there, and a bunch of coaches would be on there. Selected coaches, however you decide to select them, would be able to kind of slow the roll, I guess I would say. And I would love to see that in all sanctioning bodies that are putting on events. And that way there is athlete representation in
like a union with regular jobs.
Yeah.
I mean, in a sense.
Essentially. Yeah.
We don't have a actual like membership with TBSA, though we've talked about it numerous times and we still are looking at it. We just never did it.
You're a pretty large organization. You could pull it off, I'm sure.
Yeah. What we have done over the years is we have put out surveys on changes I wanted to make.
Sure.
So like, headgear off in the finals was a question. Even some coaches didn't like A class taking their headgear off in the finals. So that was a resistant thing for a little while. Adding elbows to C class, that was resisted for a long time. We didn't do it, even though I wanted to, because we had too much feedback saying, no, we're not with that. And we didn't want to go against the grain with so many.
Right. There's a lot of athletes that wouldn't show up.
And even with headgear, it's controversial in itself, right? Some people agree that it hurts, and some say that it helps. And
boxing, I mean, there's a peer-reviewed study that says that it is significant that it does hurt to have a headgear on. Than to not.
So even though some of us know, and then that's the interesting
the
part
only reason
dynamics.
The only reason you need to keep it on for tournaments is cuts.
Yeah.
And of course, even though some can still pass it, those post-fight physicals are crucial to make sure every fighter is checked. They take, because with the headgear, you're taking more shots. Your brain's not shutting off as quick, right? So all that trauma adds up. Where if you have no headgear,
micro concussions.
Yeah, you're knocked out quicker with no headgear. So that's your brain saying, "Whoa, stop! No more. I'm shutting you down."
And you're done after that. You're done after that.
So can I bring this back around real quick? I had one question, before we kind of, get finished up here shortly. As far as your advice to anyone watching, Pete, you work your butt off, man, and I gotta commend you. You guys have been a benchmark for us, in a lot of ways, and hopefully everybody who's watching this sees how much we really care to work together, even though we're separate, and keeping our dates so that it doesn't compete.
We try, huh?
Yeah, we do, and that's what helps.
We actually do
the community. And so, but as far as for people who are trying to do what some of us do, right, where we have our day gig, you have an extra gig, you have your gym to run, you have your competitive athletes, you're doing a promotion, whether it's a fight night, a tournament, whatever. What's like your, one major takeaway to somebody that they need to do to emulate what you're doing in that regard, as far as your work ethic?
They have to commit. You have to see an end goal and want it bad enough to commit, no matter how heavy the workload is, no matter how much resistance you get or haters you develop. Everyone has haters. And you have to stay the course. Surround yourself with people that are like-minded and study those that know more than you. Ask questions. And you just gotta want it. For me, my biggest thing right now is the officials push, right? And I know it's never going to be perfect, but fighters, coaches deserve more. They deserve better from officials. And that's, Pam made a comment to me one time, a couple years back when I started this whole officials thing, the intensives. And she said, your legacy is developing officials. I never really thought about that before. But if we have we all have legacies we look at, we want to leave to people or leave to an organization, or leave to a community,
or the country,
or something, or a sport, or
no doubt.
And for me, that's it. I want to leave that, because in 21 we had that 2-year layoff, and everybody's rusty, right? And for me, that was the worst year I'd had for officials. I didn't know it at that moment until I started watching all of these fights. I actually, because of Rich Abraham and some fights he had.
I remember that year. I was there.
Yeah.
Ooh, he was heated.
He was emotional, heated in my face. And
Rich was pissed.
And that forced me to, when I got all the scorecards on my desk, all of the Dropbox files for all 500 and some fights there were that year. And I started watching all of his 53 fights his team had. He won some he shouldn't have, and he lost some he shouldn't have. The fight that really was the catalyst to all this, he should have won that, not went to 4th round. So he was legit in his complaint. And it forced me to look at all those other fights. I started seeing referees doing things that they shouldn't be doing. And I started watching more fights. I started watching all of the splits. And I watched a few hundred of those fights over the next 6 months. And it forced me to step back and look at what we're doing. And when you look at any promotion, any one-night promotion or tournament, the consistent complaint or synonymous complaint is officials, right?
Yep,
scoring, people getting robbed. Yep. Even though a good part of coaches do not understand scoring and rules.
They didn't make it to the rules meeting.
Yeah, or
if that's
they
you,
in stadiums,
show up to the rules meeting.
Yeah,
show up to the rules meeting, everyone.
So I developed this course we made some ground. Now, a lot of them aren't active. I've almost 300 go through the course so far. A lot aren't active, but a lot are active. And
Pete,
they're getting
I have
work now.
a quick question. Question. Would you say that athletes, like judges and referees that have ring experience, do better than judges and referees that don't?
100%.
So I've 100%. Always believed that.
Yes,
I'm 100%. Always when I see fighters that I know from back in my day in the ring to referee, I'm like absolutely thrilled. I'm like, thank God we're in good hands. Yeah. Like they know what they're looking at and they know what it feels like.
Yeah.
To get hit like that. Even though sometimes people, fighters are really good actors. They can pretend to be hurt and they can pretend not to be hurt when they're severely hurt. They're really, really good at and discerning what that is. You got to be in there to know, sorry, but I wanted to ask that question because like I debate that quite a bit with some of my friends.
Well, I see it too. I see it. We only have a few that have been through the course that are have not been a coach or a fighter in their past. And while some are really analytical but what they do is they get too literal with the scoring criteria.
I understand. I don't explain that. Right away.
You know what I'm saying, right?
Yeah, I do.
Too literal, so they can't really feel the fight. They can't understand the other nuances and the gray areas of that fight because they haven't coached or fought.
Right, of course.
And so
hard to know.
Yeah, it is. At the same time, too,
especially close fights.
There are some judges that aren't good. They don't know how to judge because they get biased to certain styles of fights. You know what I mean? So there's a balance there, but I agree with you 100%. The ones that have had that background do understand it better. And when you look at scoring criteria, this should make sense. Every single one is written in black and white, but every fight presents a different dynamic, right? So the scoring criteria becomes gray. And it's those ones that were coaches or officials, coaches or fighters that are now officials that have a better chance of turning that gray back into black and white and scoring correctly. I don't know if that made sense or not, but that's kind of how I describe it.
Makes sense. Thank you for that, Pete. That was actually I'd like to wrap it up here. This has been a great interview. I learned a lot about TBAFA. Huh?
I was tamer than I thought it was going to be. I'm waiting.
I don't. Here's the deal. Like, I'm glad you said that. And because this show is not about attacking people. I literally approach these things with pure curiosity. And any, like when I said, defend your position online, and I mean it as like, what do you do? I'm not trying to attack you. Obviously, you're on my show. You're promoting your event on my website. Like, like I don't have a qualm with you, but the actual problem itself. Here I am giving you suggestions on how to solve it. Like what the hell is wrong with me, right? Like my competition here.
Not that anybody needs it, but it's helpful to share.
But it also, if you grow, I grow. And that's my real attitude in this sport. And I've always been this attitude. Pam and I butted heads a couple times in the early years. And, about dates or something. And, it happens because we're competitive and
I think we all do it.
We all do it. But in the end, it's like, what the fuck are we doing here? Like, why are we doing this? We all have space to exist and win. Yeah. And so, like I don't have any issue, especially if I'm having someone on this show. I gave, what's his name from IKF?
Johnny Davis.
Johnny, I think I gave him a fair shake. I think I asked questions and I gave him an ability to respond. Maybe I don't agree, but I think we all kind of like, okay, now I see your point of view. And honestly, at the end of that interview, he kind of was like, I'm willing to move a little. And, like these kind of conversations out in the open, in public, and, for everybody to see, it kind of educates the community so that the consumer, which is our athletes, are better educated on how everything works. And they can approach things properly, like problems, like, what do I do at TBA? Or I'll go to Pete. And if, it doesn't have, I have to call a lawyer or whatever, if at USMTO, I'm going to have to call the state and they will freaking kick my ass right away. Right. And so like, there's different protocols, and maybe you do start a committee that's athlete based. I would love to see that. I would love to see, and these are problems that I legitimately have, not to attack or break you down, but actually like improve your product. Yeah, I feel like those are the gaps that I see as a coach, as somebody that trains athletes, then sends them to your tournament. Like, I have a problem with this. I have problems with WKA that I would love to discuss with them.
And I would say we also welcome that feedback from the
all
other
the time,
elites of the industry,
openly.
Right? How awesome would that be for you to critique some of what we do, and say, hey, if you kind of look at this, maybe this will turn out a little different on that side,
I mean, Pam in the beginning helped us quite a bit, and I'll give credit where it's due. She was, we were kind of, we're on each other's side trying to help each other. And then I think something happened with dates where we couldn't really find another date. It was just impossible to find another date. And I think, that it went sour from there. I was like, really, like, it was bad. And I was like, oh, fuck, like, what do I do? Like, I don't put on an event. This is the only day. As you know, it's very difficult to find venues that'll fit a full tournament. And so, ultimately time went by and everything kind of smoothed out. And I don't really have any animosity towards TBA. I never really did. I think you're an entity that needs to exist.
And I have not been to a TBA yet. And I hate that I have to say that, but I still have not been to one. I need to come.
I think maybe next one we'll all go as a team, and
I need to
grab some lunch or something, Pete. I don't know.
Not in yours either. I've had fighters go a couple of times, but I haven't made my way out there yet.
It might be a C-class entry level super heavyweight athlete.
You? You fight, Brandon?
No, I haven't. But I can train pretty quickly.
He does train. He started as my student, and then I was like, I like the way this guy thinks, and brought him in, and I had this idea, and it was kind of cool.
Big mistake of yours.
So
man, how do you guys know each other? Because aren't you on the East Coast, Ryan?
Yeah, I'm in New York. We grew up together, Thiago and I. So before he came out to Arizona, so we've known each other since we were babies, since we were kids, running around these streets.
Since little. He's my best friend, and Brandon has come to be one of my best friends, and we've 10 years, over 10 years now. I feel like our partnership has gone through ups and downs, and it's brought us, together pretty strong. We understand where our roles are and stuff. It's kind of cool.
Muay Thai brought me out of a funk, man. So it changed everything.
It has a way of doing that, doesn't it?
Yeah. So, Pete, I want to wrap up here. Thank you for coming on the show. And if there's ever a platform where you need to vent about anything, please come on the show. I love people that want to vent. It is like my favorite thing.
Or if we have an interesting guest that you might want to,
if you want to talk to anybody or whatever.
Like Johnny, your input on that was so great.
That was great. You and Johnny going back and forth. It was
along with him. And I don't mean any animosity towards him. I just see.
I know you guys are doing technical bouts too. I know he was right. You guys are a secret lover. He was dead on. Dude was on. I gotta respect Johnny Davis because that dude knows how to hustle. And I always respect the hustle, man. That dude. I wish I could have like a monthly segment with that guy, just because he had so much to say. It was a fun interview. I liked it. I don't agree with a lot of things, but that's the world we live in.
Before we cut to Pete, you have that next officials intensive. I'm looking at your guys have the Muay Thai officials USA.com is the URL.
Yeah, Muay Thai Officials USA.com. Yeah.
And then that's August 15 to 18 is the next one.
Yeah, that's a big one. If you don't give me a minute here with that. I forgot about that.
Yeah, quick plug for it. I think we talked about it a little bit. It's definitely relevant.
Yeah, that's going to be a big one. I'm doing a first annual conference and awards, and I'm adding more things in. It is a 3-day intensive, the Thursday, Friday, Saturday, like normal. On the Friday night, we have a banquet with awards. I'm actually doing kind of like your actor awards, music awards, where most firm male official, most firm female official, firm meaning not fit, but firm. Best protocol for male and female. Favorite. We're gonna try to do some social media voting for your favorite referee, your favorite judge. Have fun with it. We're gonna have awards that way. I'm gonna also recognize, people that have been doing officiating for a long, long time. The dedication to the sport over the years. They're getting older now. They've been in it a long time. And then on the Saturday, we finish up referee protocol. We have a round kick rumble. So about 15 fights. The Sunday is a scrimmage, which is no winner or loser, like the MDL to the CBSA scrimmage, youth and adult. But I'm also bringing in Ajan Parin Hantanabu from Rajdamnern Stadium. He's been a rep there since 2019. He's also a WBC boxing and Muay Thai official, and his English is good. And I want to bring him in to kind of legitimize some of the things that I teach and say that I'm getting resistance on, like sweeps and that kind of stuff, and some rules, and about stadiums. He's going to, explain about the variances of stadiums. The stadiums over there are kind of like our sanctioning bodies here with all rules variances and scoring variances. It's not all the same over there either. So I think it'd be really, really interesting and intriguing to have him guest speak at the conference. So that's a 4-day conference, the first annual one that's coming up.
Awesome. Thank you, Pete. Thank you for having, thank you for coming on the show. And next week, join us. We are going to have another awesome guest. We have Jake Peacock coming out. He just signed another contract, 1FC. He'll be competing, I think, in a month or so. And so he is a spectacular athlete with a traditional martial arts background. And I've always wanted to interview somebody that's very successful in our sport currently with a traditional martial arts background. Jake basically went straight to pro. He really didn't have much of an amateur record. He just went straight to pro, and he is destroying everyone. It's impressive what he's doing right now. I mean, it's just he has an amazing style, and don't underestimate that guy, because that half arm in the clinch will get you. That thing, and he is extremely strong. He's probably one of the strongest punchers I've ever met. Extremely strong. So we'll have that next Tuesday at 7 MST. And that's a wrap, folks.
Yeah,
thank you very much,
everybody.
Pete. Thanks, guys.
Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Pete.
Thank you.
Take care.